All right. Nate Skinner, welcome to the podcast, bro.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. I'm so pumped that you're
Man,
on.
looking forward to it.
Cheers, bro.
Hey, cheers, dude. It's exciting to see you pursuing something that you've been, wanting to do for so long.
Dude, it's so much fun. You are the fourth guest that I've had on this week, and it's a blast. Like I said, just creating something. Like I said, right before we even started the podcast, we are literally doing. People are making. Well, let's take a step back. People have been making money off of this, obviously, for the last few years. I don't think podcasts, probably maybe 5 years, become real prevalent in the last 5. They've been going on for about 10. But like we did this stuff, smoked cigars, and like talked about this stuff, and now people just like put it on tape and people listen to it.
Oh, could you imagine if we would have recorded stuff that we would have said back then?
Absolutely. If you were like just the conversations that you had, like even with you or my dad, or like when people are like, again, you're like solving the world's problems, and all that shit. And now people are like, but it's like everybody does that. Everybody does that with their family, their friends. They always do it every Thanksgiving, or you go home and you decide to hang out with your parents or hang out with your friends, and you get together. I think it's relatable, and that's why podcasts resonate so much. And also, it's deep form, and people want that. So it's just fun. We just get to create this, and that's it. Like
we hang
out and have beers.
It's your mark on the world now.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean? It's just like, this is my take, and if you want to listen, you can. If not, whatever.
Well, and hopefully you gain a following that's dedicated enough to tune in, throughout the week, or here and there, and podcasting really it's incredible because you look at Apple and they create all the things really at the end of the day, but they oftentimes lose track, in my opinion, of what they create.
Yeah.
So podcasts got big because of iTunes.
Yeah.
Right.
iTunes
and the iPod.
Yep.
And then it was like, oh, what if we can digitally make a show and call it a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Well, and then Spotify came along, and then you had TuneIn Radio, and all these content creators had all these different channels to deliver in. And like Chuck was saying back in episode 1, it is the question of, is there so much noise out there now that it's going to actually get harder to be noticed? I know that conversation happens in like the hip-hop industry all the time.
Well, we have that. We've had that conversation in filmmaking with YouTube and social media. So, and I went to film school, 5 years ago now. At 14, I started, and even then they said the market was saturated. The market's, it just is what it is, man. Like, market's always saturated. In the 90s, they probably said the film market was saturated with VHS, and when the VHS, camcorders came along. It is what it is. I mean, like, you just have to dive in and just do what you want and go for it.
Well, now in a way, the film market is saturated in a different respect. It's saturated with reboots and re-ups of the same content that people have seen for years and years and years, and that's why it's so hard to make them good.
Yeah,
that's why it's becoming harder to make it a successful piece of property after it's been rehashed 16 different times from different directors and stuff like that.
Well, that's it, exactly. So that's obviously a good segue into what we're going to be talking about, which is the new Charlie's Angels reboot.
Man.
So I love how you let that in there.
Jeez, I'm setting a tee. It's like a t-ball game here. It's just sitting right there for you.
Dude, I remember, Nate, I think it was 8th grade. I'd have to even look it up. I think it was the Charlie's Angels, directed by Mick G. It had, Drew Barrymore, the chick from
Lucy Liu,
and then the main character.
Oh, Cameron Diaz.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot Cameron Diaz. Yeah, Cameron Diaz. I was searching for her name, Cameron Diaz. And I remember it coming out and being like, it was coming off the tail of The Matrix. So I want to say we were 8th grade. I want to say it was 8th grade it came out.
I can't remember if it was Kill Bill that came out before Charlie's Angels.
No, it was after.
It was after. Okay, so
well after.
Lucy Liu then had her name.
She was out there. She was from Ally McBeal.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, right, exactly. Gosh, that's pulling way back in there.
That's what I did for years, and then
I watched that with my mom, right? A single mom.
I actually never watched it, but I just knew of her from because it was network. You knew everything that was on network, even if you didn't watch it.
You did then.
Yeah, you did back then. Yeah, now I don't. But back then, those networks were the only thing around. So you would see advertisements on the 5 channels that we had for those shows.
Right.
It's not like now where there's 50 shows and they have massive followings. You don't even know what the hell they even exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so the new Charlie's Angels, directed by Elizabeth Banks, just came out and completely got torched at the box office.
Did you feel super woke after you saw the trailer?
I saw the trailer and I was like, this looks terrible. I think there's 2 things with it. One, the way they took, the way they went about it is terrible. However, and again, I didn't see it. Part of me wants to go spend the money and see it just to give a full honest opinion on it. But just from what the trailer shows, and I know trailers aren't anything, but the trailer was ridiculous. Like it's terrible.
Maybe we should address that up front. I haven't seen the film.
Yeah.
You haven't seen the film.
No.
But based on the critical reviews, most of the people listening to this podcast aren't going to have seen the film.
No, they're going to be like, yeah, we agree with you. It looks
so,
like dog shit.
You know, we can come from a position of unknowingness while still knowing.
Yeah. But like they lost a ton of money. The trailer, whoever's cutting trailers in Hollywood, I'm willing to cut trailers for you, and I can do a better job. Because I don't know who they're hiring, because there are some that are genius, and then the other, I don't know if there's like an A and B squad, and the B squad just gets teamed up with these like films that they're like, yeah, I guess we'll make a trailer. It's so terrible. Like the cuts, how the pacing of the trailer was so terrible. But then just the content that they have to work with, I mean, is brutal. I mean, just her like killing some dude. She's like, a girl can do what a guy can do. Is like, we've never like what's going on here, you know, like, and Elizabeth Banks is directing it, you know, like, and she did okay with Pitch Perfect too. Not as good as the first one.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because Elizabeth Banks did a really good job in those films, and they're, you know, they have a lot of following. I think people saw them that
I love Pitch Perfect.
They didn't expect to go see them, they enjoyed the films.
Loved it.
When Charlie's Angels made its, I guess, lack of a splash, right, in the film world, it immediately reminded me of the all-female version of Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Which, okay,
immediately.
Yep.
And that movie was horrendous.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did yourself the disservice of seeing that film.
I actually did finally see it. It was not good. I don't think it's as terrible as people. I remember I didn't see it until like a few months ago. Like for some weird reason, I somehow just watched it. I don't know how. And I was like, it's bad, but it's not as terrible. But at the same time, though, the way they were, I feel like it failed because it was a bad movie. And then they tried blaming people, saying it was sick. So that's where that came up, was like, people are sexist. We don't want to see the movie. It was like, no. It was just not a good movie. Like, you know, like I saw it and I'm like, this isn't good. It's not, it's kind of bad, but it's not overtly terrible. It's just not a well-made film.
And that's what Elizabeth Banks has done now.
Yeah.
She's essentially turned this into a battle of the sexes, where she's saying, well, it's men who stopped this film from succeeding. No. It's a poor script. It's bad editing. It's bad filmmaking. It's a lack of anything being new. It's a overly redone, recycled material track that she was on with this. And like, that's what I mean by, did you see how woke the culture got? It's like, don't blame men. Like, my wife didn't want to see this film, and she said that it didn't do anything for her. And she left Ghostbusters saying that was a terrible movie.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters stereotyped every stereotype. I mean, to the point where we had the, I forget her name, Jones.
I know what she's talking about. Yeah.
She's a good actor in her own right, but in this movie, she played the with it kind of ghetto influence part. And then you had, the male role played by Helmsworth.
Yeah.
He was the stupid male who couldn't figure out anything and was bumbling, and it was like they purposely tried to change the culture roles. So for Elizabeth Banks to come out and say, "Oh, it was men who didn't want to support this film," and it's like, no, you tried to make it look like women have always been oppressed and like they haven't been raising to these high heights and in movies, and like don't blame us for the fact that you had a poor product.
Yeah, and the caveat of all that too. I mean, like in film, like we always bring this up, or not say we, but like the people that are that love films. There's never been an issue with a female protagonist. In fact, typically some of the films do very well. We had
wasn't
Ripley.
G.I. Jane really well received? I don't know if it was a good movie.
Well,
but
think about like Ripley, Aliens. I mean, she's like the OG, and that back then they were like, we don't know if we can. And she is the main leading character of an action sci-fi film. And
you're talking about Ridley.
Ridley. No. I'm talking about Ridley and Aliens, i.e. Sigourney Weaver. Man, I mean, you want to go back? Yeah. She's the original, and then you
was also in Ghostbusters, if my memory is not.
Oh, the original Ghostbusters. Yeah. She was. Yeah. And then you also have, oh my God, I'm forgetting her name. She played Charlie in The Long Kiss Goodnight. Her character name was Charlie, and I'm totally blanking on her. Man, it's gonna bug me.
That's why you grab your phone and look up your IMDb and figure it out there in the spot.
Keep stalling for me.
No, it's just it's one of those things where, like, this year alone, and I saw a tweet yesterday, this year alone, you can go down a laundry list, and honestly, I don't need to look at the tweet right now, but you can look at all of the leading roles.
Gina Davis.
Gina Davis,
who is a bad bitch in her own right.
Oh, sure.
In the night. Oh, absolutely.
But this year is not the year to say that men are stopping women from film empowerment. No. I mean, if you want to go through all the 2019 releases, you're going to find there's a lot of women in a lot of different roles. And right now, I don't have the list in front of me, but it's atrocious for Elizabeth Banks to pull the sexism card right now because you know what?
Just are not a good film director. That's what it comes down to.
Just say it.
Yeah.
Like, we made this for fun. We didn't make it to make money. Whatever. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. And that's the thing too is like I it's like in like when you're catering to audiences and they're always like, oh, that's always the men culture. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, there's a reason why in most of the male demographics, when you go see films, they're male dominated or and whatnot, and you have like the romantic comedies are female dominated or whatever. But when you try to cross in the realm, women can absolutely do it when you come into the heroism protagonist roles, but you have to treat it just like you would a John McClane or Die Hard. Like Gina Davis in The Long Kiss Goodnight, dude, she gets the shit kicked out of her, and it's very in the real. She's very down to earth. It's realistic and it's relatable and you admire it. You know what I mean? Like, and the same thing with like Ridley. And I know there's multiple ones and I have to take a deep dive into that. But like, it's just like John McClane, he gets the shit kicked out of him. He's not, invincible. You know what I mean? Like Bruce Willis isn't invincible. Stallone and Schwarzenegger aren't invincible, like in The Predator, in True Lies or in any other place. You just need to make a good character. And then you can start playing with the roles, unless the role is strictly dominated, for whatever. But like Charlie's Angels, it killed at the box office when we were kids. Charlie's Angels 2 killed at the box office. So why, a reboot?
It's funny you say that. Wrong. It's funny you say that because if you look at Charlie's Angels 1 and 2, if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores right now, they're not very good. And the weird thing is, if you look at this one that Elizabeth Banks directed, it actually got fairly decent critical
from the critical reviews.
Critical, but the audience seemed to enjoy it. So the audience went in kind of knowing, okay, this isn't supposed to be anything complex. It's kind of one of those movies like you flip your switch, you sit back in your seat, and you just go, hey, I'm just here for the ride, right?
Yeah.
For me, when it came to the original Charlie's Angels, it was Cameron Diaz was hot. Yeah. Right? I mean, she was hot, and Lucy Liu was hot.
Yeah.
And Barrymore was always kind of quasi-hot for me anyway.
Yeah.
But that's the only reason I watched those movies was to see them literally running around in bikinis. And then I think it was in the second one, they had Demi Moore.
That's right, they did.
Who was around 40, and she had this bikini scene where she's like
super hot.
Slow motion, total Baywatch influence running through. And I remember like E.T. was like, oh, look at Demi at 40, and she's dating
she looks amazing.
Yeah. And it's just like, man, this is my childhood, right? It was overly sexualized and stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like Elizabeth Banks, in a lot of ways, like, I'm sorry, but apparently there's a scene in this latest one where trying on clothes in the dressing room. It's like, how stereotypical do you need to be? Like, these are supposed to be like crime fighting, quote unquote, ass kickers.
Yeah.
And we have to see the montage scene or the whatever setup scene they have of them like playing dress up.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, if you want us to take it seriously, like, you don't need to have that kind of stuff in your film.
Also, though, too, it's like, even if you would have made it well, like, make it well. What's the, a good story, good editing, like a good film. That's the biggest complaints some people saw it and they're like, well, it's not bad. Well, it's bad, but it's not terrible. The biggest complaint was the editing and the way things were shot, because Elizabeth Banks isn't a action director, which, hey, if she wants to jump into it, then then do some test stuff before you jump in with a $30 million film and fucking tank it at the box office,
or put yourself onto a project where you know that you're going to have somebody who's more capable in that,
or hire somebody who's an action cinematographer, action director, or so you can hire people like that. It's not stunt coordinators. Actually, I realized I found this out. Stunt coordinators actually direct most of the action, and the directors just kind of go along with it. Like I found
it's called staying in your lane.
Yeah. Right? It's like the director's like, I kind of want this angle, but then the action people are like, this is going to look best here, but we'll do it like this, and then they do the fight choreography, and the director's like, I approve. And then that's it. And then the director has his ideas, but I've actually found out not too long ago that they actually, some of those guys like take over the crew, and they'll actually, like, the director will be with them, but then they'll actually be directing this $100 million, set.
I have to have a sidebar question here. Do you just sit at home like on a Thursday afternoon and just like, where do you just learn this stuff? Like, where do you just find out that this stuff took place?
Straight up YouTube, and then see what I used to do, like in high school, was behind the scenes documentaries on DVDs and commentaries, right? Because that's the only info we ever had, and now YouTube is just a plethora. Yeah. So for me, like, people go on YouTube to kill time. Like I go on YouTube to actually learn what's going on. So like I try to learn something new every day. And even though it's like, yeah, you're in front of YouTube watching other filmmakers, but that's what I watch. I watch other filmmakers on how to do things. So either I'm looking at a product that I either want to buy or how to use it better, or looking at different technical aspects of actual filmmaking, and then also editing, how to do some better stuff with my editing software. But even like learning jobs like that, I want to know, who do I hire if I want to actually use real weapons on set? Where do I get a real armorer? Where do I get a real stunt guy? And if I do get a stunt guy, how do I work with them? And how long does it take? Wire work, all that kind of stuff. And you're not going to, like, unless you want to start going down a Google rabbit hole, you're not going to find anything.
Right. And that's,
YouTube is kind of like, once you got to get in those different lanes.
I don't know about you, but I lay in bed at night and watch YouTube for hours and hours.
Dude, it's so much information. It's and like
awesome.
Same with like visual effects stuff is like, okay, how far do you want to push visual effects? Excuse me. How far, and then it's also like, okay, now that I've learned how to do it per se, I'm not going to do it myself. So who do I hire?
Right.
So that's another thing too, is there's tons of websites out there that I found that I can hire somebody for $500-$600 to finish complete shots, which is like, okay, because otherwise I'm going to sit on this project for a year trying to learn After Effects, which is a program, which I did in film school, and I was like, I can't do this. Like I did it, I like made a building and the glass shatter in the building. I had to rotoscope every single window. I had to rotoscope like explosions.
What is rotoscoping?
So rotoscoping is like a frame by frame, so you track it. So I had the camera track, and then I like had to track the explosion and make masks and all this other stuff, and like to make it didn't even look real, but it looked decent. And it was just, but it was, I was a writer, director, editor, cinematographer, and now I have to like go in and then track, and like, dude, it's already hard enough I was like, no. Like at some point in our industry, everybody wants to be a jack of all trades, but at some point you literally have to hand it off to somebody and say, I'm going to pay you.
It's essentially the power of delegation.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
You need to know when to be able to kick it off to somebody else and when they can handle things better than you can. And if you're going to be the director, you're going to have your hands in everybody's pot. So
yeah, exactly.
You're not expected to know everything. But
that's what I'm saying is like, but when it comes back to Charlie's Angels, it's like she should have been like, and again, I can see it being intimidating, because if I got my first $30 million film and they're like, it's an action, I'd be like, but I would absolutely go to who's the best action coordinator, because those guys are going to be the ones that are going to be directing most of the action.
I totally fine with the fact that this wasn't a great film for her.
Yeah.
What's the problem for me is just the side of it where she goes, well, my film bombed because of this, right? It's because I didn't get enough support from the men. Well, I'm sorry, but maybe I'm making this out of my ass here, but aren't there more women on the face of the earth than men? Like, doesn't that mean that women had a better chance to go see the film if they chose to or were inspired to than we could have? I mean, as a man. Yeah. So I feel like it's a cop out, and it's kind of like this, I don't know. It's not a part of the whole Me Too movement, but it's kind of like, hey, if I can use this card, if I can play this card, if I can say that this is the reason why, then maybe it's not because of something that I did, or it's not something that I could have changed, or it's not something that I had any control over. And it's such a cop out.
It is.
I'm sick of the cop out society.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, because I do hate that whole thing is like, well, if only I was a man, or if only I was whatever. And it's like, we're all with you. There's no like, I can't go like.
Plenty of men have made bad films.
Oh, yeah. And plenty of us don't make it. And plenty of us are sitting right here next to you being like, this fucking sucks too. It blows. But it always comes down to how well, and because now not only is it suck, like, if you're very good at your job, now you're going against people who are very, very good at their job too, and are amazing or even better at your job. And it's like, and if you have a shit film, hey, you got a shit film. Everyone's got one. It's like, hopefully you'll get the next one. And like, that's what I've learned from film directors. Every time they talk over the years, they're like, yeah, I had a bomb. Hopefully you got that next one lined up, trying to stay out of director jail, not to.
And if you're really good, you could take your bomb and make money on it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always after the theater cycle.
Yeah, there's
good advertising on the back end.
Yep.
I mean,
unless it's Astra, they might make their money back, just break even. I mean, they might.
It's going to be tough at this point.
It would be tough, but they might. And if whatever, they might, instead of losing all the money, they might have lost maybe $1 or $2 million, which is better than 20 or 30. Whereas Terminator Dark Fate is slated to lose like $100 million.
I mean, look. So I grew up right. T2 was the shit.
Oh my god,
right? T2 was epic. And
I still watch that to this day.
It's incredible.
Still, it's a masterpiece.
The graphics have still held up for the most part. The taglines are still there.
Yeah.
Right. The issue with, I mean, even going back 10 years when they were doing sequels of Terminator.
Yeah, back
The
T3.
first Terminator wasn't. It was cool, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
The second Terminator was epic and it was awesome, and we
Yeah.
all got to know who John and Sarah Connor were.
Yeah.
But then the other ones after that, you could still they were just slowly fading off. And now it's just like, do we need to rehash this just to show the actors have aged and that they have their old wisdom to give to us? Like, it's not necessary. And this is the problem with the film culture though. Now is we're lacking so much original content.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's go into a movie that you and I just saw together, Ad Astra.
Yeah.
Is it original content? I mean, there's been space movies, right? There's been trips to Mars. There's been, exploration films in the past, but it was an original story.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part to pull off now is how do I find a film with original story? And I think that we're craving that more and more.
Yeah.
We're craving content creators, right?
Yep.
We're craving new IPs.
Yeah. And that's, I think, and that's what's something with Hollywood is that you're not going to, and that's why this is a big issue. Going to the theater, you're not going to find anything original. It's rare that you find the Joker and Ad Astra, and you're going to find more Charlie's Angels and more Terminators. But what happens when you go to Netflix and the Hulus? You find the original IPs.
So you just said something I want you to expand on.
Okay.
You just called the Joker original.
Well, okay, in an aspect original.
Explain.
Yeah. It's so the Joker. If you just take away the fact that you take away the title and you take away the fact that the city is called Gotham, it's not even a Batman movie. I mean, it's not.
That's where I was hoping you'd go.
Yeah, it's not. It's not even close to a Batman. It's not even close to it's nothing close to a comic book film, but it was a risk that was taken, and it's original, on that aspect, how it's shot. The characters, the absolute deep focus, and then it's kind of just wrapped up into the comic book universe, and it was amazing. I mean, it's about to, I don't know if it did. It's about to surpass $1 billion.
No, it just did. I think it's at as of today. I checked the number.
No shit.
As a matter of fact, I think it's 1.7 bill.
Shocking.
Yeah. But is it shocking?
Yeah.
I mean, is it though?
I mean, you think okay.
This is Joaquin Phoenix, and he duped
That's true.
everybody.
That's true.
When he went on that crazy binge and went on the Letterman show and was just like Mr. Beardman out of his brain.
Yeah, I think it was shocking on the aspect that you had a if it wasn't labeled the Joker, I feel like it wouldn't have made close to that much money. I think it maybe would have made $100 million. They would have been like, "Oh, that was such a great film by Joaquin," but it maybe only made 50. I don't think, and then if you would have said, "Hey, we're gonna make a Joker reboot just like Suicide Squad," or they're gonna get the Jared Leto route, they're only gonna make like $300-400 million.
Speaking of, how butthurt is Jared Leto about this?
Apparently he was pretty.
He's
butthurt
still
over
pretty
that.
butthurt.
He's still pretty.
I think
butthurt
he's
over
really
that.
better,
Yeah,
but maybe Jared Leto should have played a better Joker.
Yeah,
and maybe that's not his fault, but his Joker was not compelling.
No. Well, they also apparently they cut him out more of Suicide Squad. Apparently they were like, he was like, "Yeah, I was supposed to be in this way more." They left him on the cutting room floor a lot, and he didn't like that. He thought he was gonna have a bigger role. Thought it was gonna go further, But back to Joaquin, though, I think it was because it was an art house film turned into the comic book universe. It drew everyone. And you think about hitting every demographic. I mean, you got comic boy film fans. You got the pretentious asshole film critics. You have, the pretentious, hipsters. I mean, like that do the whole I like to watch French New Wave, all that bullshit. And then they're coming to see the joke because it's gorgeously shot. It's a beautiful film. It's a slow burn, but it's in the DC universe. It not only does it slow burn, it fucking pays off. It pays off in a big way. At least in my eyes, I was like, I loved it. It went from 0 to 100. It was a slow burn, but it went from 50 to 100 in a heartbeat, and I loved it.
But the best part about that burn was none of it was boring leading up to the explosions, right?
No. And the other thing too I heard about that was they actually played the music. So the score was written before the film was made, and they would play it on set. So they would actually they had the tone, which is never happens, is they have the entire tone of the film while they're filming it, which is insane. I mean, you don't know how just having the music ready to go and playing for an actor or even for people doing stuff would be and chosen before you even start rolling is amazing. Because they totally have the mood and the feel, and now you are exactly know where you're going.
I watched a YouTube video about what influenced this film, and I think one of the things that I appreciate the most about it is you can go back and watch, and I have a brain for a lot of things, but I don't always have a brain for detail, right? But you can go back and you can go on YouTube for that matter, just watch the videos, but you can see the direct influence that past films, and I'm talking like older films.
Oh, yeah.
Like black and white films played on this film. And that's why I appreciate what you said about it being original, because although everybody knows who the Joker is, and they're synonymous with, Heath Ledger now, but it was Nicholas before then.
Yeah.
And it felt like an original piece of content, and I feel like that's going to set someone like Todd McFarlane up for a tremendous, boost or step forward when it comes to his upcoming Spawn film.
Yeah.
And I believe you and Chuck were talking about this in episode 1 of your podcast. This is being backed by Blumhouse. And
is it really?
Yeah. So Todd McFarlane isn't just making a Spawn film with Jaleel White, which arguably as a Spawn fan, I wasn't a huge fan of the first original film.
No.
This is going to be like dark.
Yeah.
It's going to be R-rated.
Yeah.
And Blumhouse, I believe, is backing it. But now that you see that the Joker is successful, and speaking, so I'm going a little bit off track to come back to the Joker, because today the breaking news is, breaking news bulletin. Yeah. Joker 2 is coming.
Yeah, I haven't read anything. You said that was happening. What's the details on that?
Well, fairness in the argument, I don't know that I'm ready for a Joker 2.
Yeah. I
don't know that I want a Joker 2. I mean, I kind of felt like there was so many good fan theories running around about this movie that didn't need a second film. One of the fan theories was, is Arthur Fleck even the Joker?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, is this guy the Joker, or is he the influencer of the Joker?
Yeah.
Does the Joker come after Arthur Fleck?
Yeah.
I love that fan theory.
Yeah. Which totally makes sense, because he did. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, he doesn't kill them at the end.
Let's sidebar again. Yeah. Spoiler alert. What is fair for a podcast to be able to spoiler alert? I mean, I'm talking to the king of spoilers.
When it surpasses $1 billion.
I'm talking to the king of spoilers here.
When the film surpasses $1 billion, I think you can spoil the ending.
For the audience to know something, I'm watching, what was this, Game of Thrones? And King Joffrey dies, right? And I'm a couple days behind.
This is
I'm up at Camp Ripley serving, my country honorably, and I'm sitting there, and this dishonorable guy texts me and says, "Death to King Joffrey," or "Too bad Joffrey's dead." And I'm on the edge of my seat here, not able to see it, and Ethan completely butchered it. So now when I think about spoilers, I always think about that moment, reading that text message, just hating myself for even opening it.
Yeah,
but. I guess that's a conversation for the day. Where do spoilers come in when it comes to a podcast?
Yeah.
I mean, what is your grace period? I know that YouTube struggles with this a lot.
Yeah.
Now YouTubers have to literally say spoiler alerts on top, or this is going to have spoilers, or this isn't spoiler free. Go ahead and turn this off and come back to it. But so I completely lost track of where I was going with that. I just totally went off the rails. But so today they announced there's going to be a Joker 2. And I guess, like I said, I'm not ready for it, but I also didn't think that Joaquin Phoenix was going to be ready for it.
Yeah.
Or that, what's his name, Todd Phillips?
Todd Phillips, yeah.
I didn't know that he was going to be ready for it.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit worried, frankly, that it could potentially, and I think this is a fair concern, it's going to potentially tarnish what the first film is.
That's true. It'd be interesting to see where they go. I think, again, this is Hollywood trying to cash in because it made $1 billion, and they're going to want to. I don't even think if Todd Phillips said no, I want this to die right here. I don't even think that it's in his control. They would be like, okay, we'll get another director and get a Joker 2, and we'll make $500 million.
Is it unrealistic for me to think that Joaquin Phoenix is maybe one of the few actors left in Hollywood that would say, you know what, I'm gonna ignore the cash grab and go do something different?
I will hope he would, because honestly, I don't want to see a Joker 2. I don't.
Okay, that's where you stand right now?
That's where I stand right now.
So Joaquin Phoenix said that he would come back to the project if he felt like it wasn't just going to be a cash grab.
Okay.
And so I hope
that's a good script.
This is it needs to be something that develops the character and that brings it further. But then it's going to maybe mess with my fan theory that I like so much that we weren't just watching the Joker.
Yeah.
Right? Because I like the fact that maybe Arthur Fleck was setting up for the Joker to actually get inspired by this maniac.
Yeah.
For me, if he doesn't win Actor of the Year, Best Actor, for this film, fuck the Academy.
Yeah.
Well, honestly,
people have been on that train for a long time. Dude, they at one point, I think it was like a year or two ago, they were going to get rid of presenting cinematography. They were literally about to they were still going to award the category, but I don't think
How do you get rid of a category that has entire degrees in schools?
Well, the other thing too was like they were going to get rid of the category. It's the only reason why films look good. So when they rate like why is a film win Best Picture is because of the cinematography. Like it's cinematography and story or cinema, because you'll have a shit film, but it'll win Best Cinematography because it's beautiful. It's still you're manipulating light. Like it's still, and they wanted to, I don't know if they wanted to get rid of it or if they wanted to not air it. And it was like one of those two. And like everybody in Hollywood were like, well, are you serious? Like even like the heavy hitters are like, who the fuck is running the Academy? Like even like the most pretentious like actors and director and everybody, as they should have, were like, you don't get rid of the cinematographer. Like everyone knows that's the only person that like pulls it together on set. Be like, oh, I don't know if it's gonna work, and if it looks great, they're like, okay, at least it looks great.
So speaking of the cinematography of this film, one of the things that I kind of realized after I watched it, first and foremost, for any women who might be listening to this podcast, and maybe they're on episode. Who knows? Maybe they've just listened to episode 165, and they're coming back through your catalog, right? Because they love us so much.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, a few years later.
My wife, while left the theater, is saying this is one of the few movies that she's seen in the last few years that she would pay to go see again.
Yeah.
And look, her compliment doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. For that matter, no one's opinion really matters except for the opinion of the actor who wants to do the film again. But they made that quote unquote, as you referred to on podcast 1, art house film that felt so new. Yeah. It felt so fresh. Yeah. Despite the fact that we already knew the backstory, we already kind of understood how to get from point A to point B, right? And I just, I don't know.
Yeah.
There have been some good sequels out there.
Yeah.
And I do firmly believe that, for example, look at Christopher Nolan's trilogy.
Yeah.
Say what you will about the third film. Yeah. I don't think it was as bad as a lot of people think it is. Sure, you can find potholes, but after 3 films, you're probably going to start to notice those a little bit more.
Yeah.
A lot of people will tell you that the second film was the Dark Knight Rises, I think was the name of the second film. Or was that
The Dark Knight?
The Dark Knight, okay.
Dark Knight.
Was it the third one, Dark Knight? I forget. It's been a while since I've seen him.
Right.
The first one was called Batman Begins. It was the best origin superhero film that I think I've ever seen to this day, and Iron Man comes close as a second for me. But as that went on, I felt like it got stronger. And even in the third film, as that series went on, even in the third film, I felt like it had some really strong elements. You can say what you will about the potholes and about the fact that you can hardly understand what the hell Bane is saying, but I'll argue that's why you have closed captioning when you're watching it at home, right?
Yeah.
So just take it for what it is. But it was still a well-executed, well-thought-out film. I don't know that the Joker is going to be able to get better than what we just saw.
Yeah, I don't know.
I worry they set the bar so high.
Yeah, because it feels like with Batman Begins, it was followed up by The Dark Knight, which in my opinion, I don't think it's as good as people think, but it's decent. But that felt like a comic book movie where you're like, oh, they can make a second film. When Batman Begins came out, you're like, oh yeah, they'll have like, I see where this goes. Like the Joker card, how they're like, oh yeah, absolutely great film. They'll make a sequel. Same stuff, like very Hollywood-esque, very sequel. You know what I mean? But with Joker, it's like I wanted to see him running a criminal organization. But to me, like you said, with a second one, maybe we shouldn't find out if he runs it or not. Maybe it's a good idea. Maybe his character can't even run that. You know what I mean? Like maybe just let it die where it's at. He's Joker on television. Someone else kills the Wayne family or the parents, and you just leave it. And just leave it. He becomes a symbol more than the actual criminal.
That's what I was kind of expecting this film to be. Stand alone.
It's just stand it alone.
Look at it now for 30 years from now, and you're still going to go back and be like, wow, one heck of a performance without anything else tied and attached to it. And I think that's what we're getting away from that so much in Hollywood. Everything just has to be attached.
And that's why, like I said, I think that's what the big draw to TV is. And that's why Game of Thrones kills. That's why Westworld kills, is because you're not getting... the films can still do this, but it's Hollywood is playing everything safe with their big budgets. That's why you're seeing reboots. That's why you're seeing not original content. But think about it. Peaky Blinders. Like, I always bring this up. It's an Irish mob movie. It's got like 5 seasons. Love it. It's amazing. The first few, you don't even know what the fuck they're saying, but it's awesome. It's gorgeous. The stories are amazing, and that's one out of how many other Netflix originals are there, or Hulu, or Amazon, or we just watched. There's 2 Jack Ryan series. You would never get that. Jack Ryan is always, and that's just a fun book character, like like Harrison Ford's played Jack Ryan. You've had a few others play Jack Ryan. I think Ben Affleck was Jack Ryan at one point. It was a big book character, but as films, they always were kind of like up and down. But now you have like a consistent, like, cool. Now we're making a series.
Okay, so I guess the
Series are
question,
huge.
I guess the question becomes, maybe there's no real way to answer this. It might be a double-edged sword, but if you're gonna make a film like The Joker and it does really well, you either choose to leave it alone, or you choose to make a sequel and a sequel and a sequel, whatever. Or you can say, hey, that was really successful. We want to do something similar to this in a TV series. Because I think the expectation with a TV series like you're talking about, like Peaky Blinders, or I'll even look at like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever, the expectation is that it's going to follow the TV formula, right? So I wanted to get into this on this podcast, but I want to get into The Mandalorian a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll get there. But the point they're trying to make is maybe we have this expectation for films to be really good because we're going somewhere else to see them.
Yeah.
And I'm paying for the popcorn. And
as you should.
Right.
As you should. Yeah.
And that's why it makes it really hard, again, so bringing it back even further, Elizabeth Banks, for her to say, well, it was because men didn't go see it. It's like, you know what? It's because I decided not to spend my hard-earned cash, which is going to come with the purchase of the popcorn and the soda and everything else.
Which, by the way, you're competing with Netflix. You're competing, well, yeah, because I'd rather spend a Friday night, not spend $40 at the movies, or even if like I'm going to dinner with my wife and movies will cost you that's $12, $13 ticket, it's $26. You buy popcorn, that's $8. I mean, you're already balls deep in $35.
But that's why it boggles my mind that the film industry is still so stubborn with their prices. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't go see a movie anymore unless it's on a Tuesday night and I'm spending $5 to get in.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know I'm going to spend $25 at the concessions.
That's true.
And I can handle that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is, you look at these movies. Would it be better if they just decided to continue the Joker into a TV series? I mean, sure, maybe you don't get Joaquin Phoenix to sign on, but you can get someone who might be, semi-capable, or you can spin it off somehow.
Yeah. But then again, though, if you spin that off onto tiers, no one would watch it because Joaquin's not in it.
So there's this expectation that these films need to be really good.
Yeah.
And that's why when directors cop out, like Elizabeth Banks did, there really is no excuse for them to be able to say, well, because of X, Y. No, your movie bombed because it wasn't good.
Yeah.
So,
which, by the way, everybody bombs.
But the difference for me is when I'm, to your point, when I'm watching TV, I know that I'm going to be able to sit on my couch, and I know what the formula is going to be, and it's probably going to be for anywhere from 6 to 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Right? My expectation is lowered a little bit because I'm okay with it maybe having a little bit of a campiness to it.
Yep.
Because it's on my couch and I'm paying $10 a month as opposed to $40 between popcorn and 2 tickets.
Yep.
I get what the theaters are doing. They're making seating more comfortable. It's reclining. They want us to come out. They're selling booze. They're doing the right things.
They are doing the right things. I mean, and that's theaters. Like, you got to.
I don't know that it's enough.
I think theaters will be okay. I think that theaters because if you think about it, theaters aren't connected to Hollywood. Theaters are their own entity. If theaters are like, hey, Hollywood, your stuff's not bringing the revenue, I could see theaters being like, you know what, we're gonna have a Mandalorian night, a Game of Thrones night, $2 to get in, comfy seats. We'll play 2 episodes, so they keep, or 3. They'll keep you in there for 3 hours, 2 hours, like 3 45-minute episodes. Hey, we'll catch you up. You'll get some. I mean, like the Marcus Theaters and the other ones. I mean, their food is spot on, man. Like, even their concession food was good. And then they have their own. Then they have the restaurant. And then they have the booze. I mean, like, it's fun. People still want to be communal. You still want to go to a theater. I still love going to theaters.
Oh,
that
for
experience
sure.
isn't taken away.
For
it's
sure.
just not. Now I'm more picky about what I go see.
So we just recently. We got to get back to Disney and Mandalorian stuff, but we just recently went and saw Ad Astra together. Mm-hmm. So
gorgeous film. Yeah.
Gorgeous to say the least.
Yeah.
And I think when we got out of the theater, I looked at you and I said, hey, I'm going to have to chew on this for a little bit, but the initial taste in my mouth is this movie's going to get better with age for me.
Mm-hmm.
3-4 weeks ago, we went and saw this.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you sitting on Ad Astra? Because I guarantee you a lot of people in your pod probably
Never
didn't go watch Ad Astra.
No, not a lot.
But maybe they should.
Yeah.
What do you feel about it 4 weeks later?
At 4 weeks later, it's still. I think it's a gorgeously shot. It was original. Like it was a slow burn. Didn't quite pay off in the end, but it was okay. But at the same time, though, like, it was a great little dive into it. It was a character piece set backdropped against a really cool future, practical future. And it was just, you could have placed that story into World War II Germany. You could have placed it into the Cold War. You could have placed it into anywhere else in time. But they had it, because what the guy's doing, the mission. And I think, I loved it. It's one of those deals where, like, I'll watch the film every 5 years. Because those are, like, one of those films that, like The Fighter, with Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg. I watched that in Kuwait, and I hadn't seen that in maybe, like, 8 or 9 years. And I was drawn right back into it. I could not look away. I just stopped everything I did and I just watched it on my little screen.
It makes you wonder after the fact, like, what took me so long to come back to this?
Yeah. And I'm like, God damn, that's a great movie. Like, I watched it, like, fuck, that's a great movie. And I think Ad Astra will do that for me, not as much as The Fighter because there isn't as much dialogue, but the way it looks and the way it feels. And for me as a cinematographer and as, like, a want-to-be film director, that to me is an important film because the vision of it is just, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and they pulled it off. And it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not a big budget blockbuster. You know what I mean? It's not a blockbuster type film. It's not. I don't even know what the budget is. I would have to take a look. But the aspect that they treated it though as, like, again, not say art house. I think it's a little disingenuous to say it was an art house film, but saying it's a cross between a sci-fi adventure with art house with the character piece,
For the layman out there, I thought it was pretty interesting. We went to the movie with our wives, and a coworker of mine was at the bar. Remember, we grabbed a drink before we walked to the movie, and I was like, "Oh, what are you gonna go see?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go see this Ad Astra film." And I remember thinking to myself, the fuck, Ad Astra's gonna be way over this kid's head.
Yeah.
Right? And no offense to him, I love the kid, but it wasn't the kind of movie that I thought he would go see. So the next day I got to work and I said, "Hey, what'd you think of the film?" And he goes, "Oh, I wish I would have went and saw Zombie instead. It wasn't as much action, but it was okay." And I'm thinking to myself, exactly why I like this film so much. Is this isn't for that guy that just wants to go see Zombieland and not think. I mean, it really brought you into the depths of what Brad Pitt had to go through. I mean, so this isn't my take. This isn't my opinion, but I love it. I'm a big proponent of the Bill Simmons podcast. Not only is he into sports, but he's into film, two of my favorite things. Bill Simmons made the comment that Brad Pitt has never really been the kind of guy that can carry a film. So I think back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right? He had a really nice cast around him. Really nice ensemble. Specifically, Seven is one of my all-time favorite movies. Okay,
amazing. He
didn't need to be great, but he got carried on that film. And you can go back, Fight Club, right? It was kind of a weird film. A lot of people didn't really like it at first, and it got much bigger and bigger after it came out. I mean, Fight Club was okay in the theater, but it didn't really pick up until after people got hold of it in VHS. Well, you go check out this film, right?
Yeah.
So the argument was made that Brad Pitt really hasn't ever been incapable of, like, carrying his own film. That's what made him so good in this. Is because he's got to play this military guy. He had to play a member of Trump's Space Force, which I thought was awesome, by the way. I was like, look at this, Trump haters. It happens in the future, right? But what do you mean we're going to get a Space Force? We already have an Air Force. Yeah, but that's not space, so I think it's cool. Anyway, I digress. He had to play this gauged guy who emotionally had to be in control at all times because although space travel in this movie is normal, it's still fucking space travel. Right? And I don't want to give anything away for anybody. I'm not a big fan of spoilers, but you get to see some of the threats and some of the scariness of space travel and some of the dangers of it and some of the unknowns in space travel. So you see it, but at no point did you ever feel like he lost emotional control. And later on in the film, when it starts to kind of climax and you get to the point where, he does what he's supposed to go do and he sees who he's supposed to go see, it's emotionally gripping, but you realize that it wasn't him that brought it out in you. It was his stoicism. That for me, I found to be the emotional connection. Because if I had gone through what he just went through, I would want to reach out to the person that I'm talking to and say, I love you. Let's have a relationship. And instead, he held so strong, and maybe that's a man thing. Maybe it's for men to just say, well, we have to be strong.
But they built that out into his character.
They did.
Though.
The whole film.
The whole film was like he wasn't loved by his father. He wasn't. And it's like, and it gets to that moment, and you're like, oh, it makes sense. Like that's
what was beautiful about it.
Yeah.
Was you didn't feel like he was forcing this on you.
Yeah.
You were just it was from his perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Ad Astra to me is maybe one of the prettiest space films that I've seen since Apollo 13.
Yeah. It's great. Like, it was gorgeous. I loved it. Like, and I loved it because it was like, it just felt.
I feel like I'm chewing on it again, and I'm still getting those same like feelings that I got when I left the theater. Like, I think I just saw something pretty special.
Yeah.
And it's going to be special for me and maybe for you.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be special for a lot of people because it got overlooked.
It did. And I think it's one of those things, though, it's like, again, in films where I think people will see it. I'm hoping that streaming does this well with people because I think it draws you to films that you didn't see before, and you're like, oh, I'll watch that. You know, like, you'll see it on Netflix and somebody, because I've done that where I've discovered shit and I'll be like, wow, I wish I saw that in theater. Or I can't think of anything right now of what I've done, but I know I've done that where I've watched it and I'm like, Jesus, that's a great fucking movie.
So let's segue to streaming real quick.
Okay.
Fucking Disney Plus is here, bro.
Yep. I got it free for a year.
Well, Verizon, right?
Verizon. Everybody's got Verizon Unlimited. Go check that
tell
out.
You, if this podcast gets big, we're sitting here, for those of you that can't see,
Drinking.
who aren't watching the YouTube channel,
Yep.
We're drinking Rolling Rock from Latrobe
Go ahead,
Brewing.
look at that. There you go.
This one?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just looking at the beer. I'm not even trying to check out the camera. And we're drinking Leinenkugel.
Leinenkugels.
So we're from, what, Minnesota born
yeah.
and raised. Mm-hmm. This is definitely not a Minnesota beer. Rolling Rock.
It's not either.
But it's what I grew up drinking.
Yeah.
Underaged.
So I was drinking Corona's the last one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And Leine's is not, quote unquote, a local beer anymore because it's a Wisconsin beer. But, you know, what the fuck did we start talking about beer?
I don't know.
I don't know
streaming. We're talking about Disney Plus.
How did that get us to beer?
And then getting famous off of the podcast and people go.
Oh, okay, yeah. So,
or somehow, if it takes
okay,
off.
all right. Well, you know, I'm going to listen back to this and go, God, I'm an idiot. But here's the story. You already knew that.
No, I love you.
Streaming's dangerous. Because how many films could I have seen if I wouldn't just endlessly scroll through all the film titles thinking, I don't know. That's the issue with getting stuck.
Yeah.
That's why Netflix, for as great as it is, in my opinion, is really tough to navigate.
That is true, yes.
You and Chuck talked about it. He talked about there being too much choice.
Yeah.
In my industry, in the sales industry, there's something called the paradox of choice. It's if you have too many choices. So if I put 50 choices in front of you, Ethan, and I say pick a health plan.
Yeah.
That's, by the way, not what I sell. But if I say pick a health plan, you're going to maybe get frustrated and walk away and realize that after 3 hours, you didn't pick a health plan because there's too much choice.
Yeah.
And I've always felt that Netflix has been guilty of that.
Yeah.
They put so much in front of me.
Yeah.
That's what makes Disney Plus so genius.
Yeah. Because you know what's on it.
You're only getting their catalog.
Yeah, yeah. And Fox catalog, by the way.
Right, but they own it, so it's theirs now. And National
Yeah.
Geographic is theirs now.
Yeah,
It's in
true.
there. So
well, true, by the way, though, even though it's Fox, they still don't have a lot of Fox titles on there. So I'm wondering how that's working out right now. I'm sure they're having to go through like a lot of the property right or a lot of the rights of the
they're
films.
still trying to figure out Spider-Man. Now,
Yeah.
as of today, they figured out that they're going to have the next Spider-Man film, and they're going to
Disney
share the
will?
rights and stuff like that
With
with
Marvel?
Fox. So
no,
Fox.
Fox.
Fox actually owns Spider-Man,
Because then Fox got bought out by Disney. So.
but not all of its IP.
Oh, really? Okay, so
So-
that's what I was wondering because I didn't see a lot of the Fox IP in Disney Plus.
The way I don't
Granted,
know.
it might not be geared though towards people like us. It might be geared more towards like kids and Star Wars. And
So we're going to
Marvel.
put Disney Plus over here for a second, but the next Spider-Man film damn near didn't happen because
Into
Fox,
the Spider-Verse.
Well, that was a great movie.
Homecoming.
The third one that they're working on.
Oh, okay.
Fox decided that they were going to keep the rights to Spider-Man, and they felt like they could make a film better than Marvel could, which is just so obtuse.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, this isn't going to go well. And you had Tom Holland talking with Robert Downey Jr. on Twitter, and they're all like sending emojis and shit back and forth to each other. And eventually Tom Holland, I think, called somebody over at Fox and over at Disney and said, figure this shit out because I don't want to do this to my character.
Yeah.
And I love that about Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who's committed to playing his character. He
Yeah.
is the Spider-Man. I fucking own it. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that shit, right?
Yeah.
So finally, a couple weeks ago, Fox and Disney decided. Actually, I'm sorry, it's not Fox. It's Sony, bro. I'm pretty sure it's Sony.
Oh, you're right. I think it's Sony.
God,
yeah, it's
so-
Sony.
Pretty sure it's Sony. Here we are throwing Fox under the bus.
Yeah.
It's Sony who owns it. And how the hell Sony got a hold of the IP to begin with, I don't know.
They
But
got it years ago.
they made some terrible films.
But they made the first Spider-Man,
But
which
it-
kicked off like the whole,
But let's not
everything else.
pretend that was good.
No, I agree with you, but still though, they were the ones that. But it was the first one to break all the box office records.
Sure, but for them to think they can make a better film than the Marvel Universe is just atrocious.
Nowadays, yes, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
So anyway, that's all getting worked out. Sony now has co-share. So you're right. Fox is owned. Those properties are owned by Disney.
Yeah.
So it's so amazing to be able to say, you know what? For me, I'm going to have an easier time picking what I want to watch on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go watch The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
We should talk about episode 1. Have you seen 2?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the second episode yet, but
yeah.
I can sit there and watch Darkwing Duck.
Yeah.
I can go back to when I was 7 years old and watch The Love Bug.
And that's what Disney has over everything else, is because, look, as much as you love or hate them, and I hate them, love them at the same time, is that they put their stuff on Blu-ray DVDs and then they took it back, or they didn't even put them on Blu-ray DVDs, which is a pretty shitty move, to be honest.
They vaulted movies.
They vaulted them, and on Disney Plus you can still access Out of the Vault or a vault film, and it's Amanda. I just threw it on. I was searching The Little Mermaid. So funny little thing. My mom, we had a lot of the VHSs, like not all of them by no means, but we probably had about 10, 15 Disney movies because they weren't on DVD and Disney never released them. My mom just bought a cheap little DVD recorder thing for VHS to convert to DVD, just so we could burn them to DVD and then have them for my niece and nephew.
You don't have to chew the tape.
Yep. So we had the tape that went into the computer. Like my mom did this on her own. This was actually like after I got out of the Marine Corps, and she did that. I'm like, oh, cool, but they're still not. They're still not on DVD and Blu-ray, and it kind of annoys me because if you can't see, I like to collect films. It's like my library, and I'm going to try to do more and more as time goes on. Like I kind of stopped doing it for a while, and I still want to build my collection. But the other thing though is like I loved it. I'm one of the guys, I don't like streaming that much because I'm going to put a little tiny Blu-ray player over here in my office, and I'd like to pick movies out, and I like to go, and it just plays next to me. And that's it.
You've always been that way.
I've always been that way. Ever since I was a kid, I would play the films, and then I would work, or I'd get inspiration. Or if I'm working on a project that has an inspiration from a film before that, then I get like, or at least the look I'm looking for. Like as I write, I love the look of this film. I will put that film in and be like, okay, I can see, like a vision in my head. Yeah.
So in how many years do you think you're going to lose the ability to add to your collection? I mean, granted, they'll always be out there. You can always find it somewhere now. But I don't know the last time I bought a Blu-ray.
I actually, the last time I bought a bunch of Blu-rays was actually maybe 2 years ago.
It kind of seems like a bad investment now.
You go on Amazon, they're like $5. So Blu-rays that used to cost like $20, they'll cost like $5 on Amazon. Just give it a few years. Like, so I went on a tangent.
So is Blu-ray the last format then? Now that we have streaming?
Yeah, they got that 4K HD shit. Excuse me, shit coming out. I ain't gonna buy it. It's Blu-ray because I think Blu-ray and 4K are gonna stay the same. Blu-ray is 1080p, 4K is 4K, obviously, but honestly, streaming is not past 720. In fact, if you look at TV shows, TV is not past 720.
And I'm paying for the 4K package on Netflix like a dumbass.
Are you paying for 4K?
Yeah, I'm paying for it because they said, we got 4K content. I'm like, I got a 4K TV. I don't even think I'm able to push 4K into my TV.
You can as long as your bandwidth's good, but not everything's done in 4K though. See, that's the thing is only Netflix originals are 4K, but the original films that they have in their catalogs, like if you go watch a film, they're not in 4K.
I honestly can't tell the difference between a 4K and a 1080p. I can't.
You don't need to.
I can't.
Does.
I don't know that the eye can perceive it.
The only reason we shoot in 4K as filmmakers is because it looks great compressed on the 1080, but it gives us different options, and also it's like a future proof. But honestly, it's not even. People shoot 1080 like on REs, like on these film cameras, and they upscale to 4K and they still look great. So it's all about kind of the robustness of the. That's a whole different aspect.
So back to the beginning.
Yeah,
Disney's onto something here, Disney Plus, and I think it's going to have
for families. You know why? Because you have kids. Right. They're a brand though. I think what people don't understand is that Disney's a fucking brand. Fox is not a brand. Warner Brothers is not a brand. They're not brands.
Warner Brothers used to be a brand. You used to be able to walk into the Warner Brothers store and have the kind of experience that you could have at a Disney store.
But they're not.
You used to be able to see the Batmobile and all that kind of shit. I mean, that was true. That was awesome.
True. But
it was way more adult.
But it's adult though. But kids are never ending. The kids will always. And then what happens? You get nostalgic. I'm gonna have Disney Plus for my kids. They're gonna have Disney Plus for their kids. And then they're gonna be like, yeah, this film's 100 years old. But guess what? I mean, think about it. And
I saw Swiss Family Robinson on there, and I went, oh my gosh, I gotta spend some time watching this.
We started watching Dumbo from like 1941.
Oh gosh, I can't wait to dig into that.
When my kids have kids, Dumbo will be over 100 years old.
But I want to watch that Dumbo now against the live action Dumbo, and that's what makes Disney Plus right now so great. Is you have all this like animated shit now next to all this live action arguable garbage.
That's a reboot.
Yeah, it's a reboot of the original
of the
vintage
original.
piece, and they're going to be sitting right next to each other for you to watch. I
Yep.
mean, this is a great play for them.
Yep.
I don't think Warner Brothers is going to be as successful with it.
No.
I don't know that any other people that think Sony's film catalog won't be as successful.
See a lot of the studios, because everybody's going to try their own streaming service, and what's going to happen is there's going to be too many, and they're going to lose money. And it's going to be the big player. It'll always come back to a few, and I think that's what because Fox had Hulu, so Disney absorbed Hulu.
I don't know how Hulu has a path forward.
Well, Hulu is going to be backed up by Disney now. So,
okay.
Hulu's for TV shows that are current, though. Like, I have Hulu, and that's the reason I've always had Hulu, is because Hulu, back in the day when it competed with Netflix, way back, I'm talking like 10 years ago, when it first came out, it was for TV shows that were airing. So the TV show would air, the next day you could watch it. And then you could watch the series as it went along. It was good for like 2 or 3 weeks, that episode, and then it would kind of like... So if you watch episode 1 of that season... once you got to episode 4, episode 1 would go away, but it would always have a few episodes around the current episode, and that's how they started. So it's basically like, for me, like, I didn't have cable in my barracks room in 2008, 2009. So Hulu is how I watched The Office. Hulu is how I watched Parks and Rec, and like a bunch of other ones, and like Archer, and so they had a bunch of the TV. It was more TV based. It was like TV streaming, if that makes sense, but. Now things are getting different, though. There's YouTube Live, but I think, though, with Universal Studios, which is still a big player, Warner Brothers, and all these others, I think they're going to gravitate towards Netflix.
Oh, no, and I'm glad you said that, because I firmly believe like Netflix is they're just going to be getting stronger here. They have Nickelodeon.
Yeah, they have to get competitive.
They're going to have to get competitive.
Because Disney Plus is coming.
But they're going to have to change their business model, because everything that I always hear about Netflix is how fucking broke they are.
Yeah.
And how they're always in debt, and they're spending money for properties like Bird Box and stuff like that, and it's just astronomical amount of money, where if they would have put it in the theater, they could have recouped that cost.
That's why I always keep wondering, is like, I don't understand why Netflix doesn't put films in the theater.
I wonder if with Disney Plus, they're going to have to start, and I'm not saying that Disney Plus is going to be the only threat, but there's going to be some real emerging threats that are going to pull subscriptions. And maybe Netflix is going to have to stop raising their prices.
And I think Netflix should be putting films into film. I honestly do. I agree with you. I think that they should have like a filmmakers program where it's like, we're going to give you $20 million for this film.
But you shot for Netflix.
Well, we shot a promo for Big Mouth. Yeah. Back when Big Mouth came out.
Can we, maybe that's a pod for a different time, but that Big Mouth is...
The first season was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
You love it? You like it, love it, hate it?
Oh my gosh. Nick Kroll, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I spend time on the treadmill 45 minutes at a time watching Big Mouth. One episode gets me through.
I liked season 1 was great. Season 2 I didn't like so much, and I never got to season 3.
Okay, well season 3 just came out, so you still have time. But
yeah.
I feel like if you've committed to season 1, you got to give 2 and 3 their fair
got 2. I watched 2 and I was like, I didn't think it was that good. But 3,
maybe it gets better.
Maybe it gets better.
So back to most people. I think. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but did most people just get Disney Plus just to see The Mandalorian?
I think so. I think Star Wars had a big play in it. But I also think, though, that you think about it, like, you have Netflix, right? So most people don't have Hulu, or maybe they do or whatever. But if you have to choose, well, a lot of people have Amazon Prime, though, too. So you think about it. If you're getting, like me and Amanda, my wife, we got rid of everything. And now we have Amazon Prime. We have Netflix. I pay an extra $5 a month for HBO on Amazon Prime, which is amazing. And then, so that's 1, 2, 3, Hulu's 4, and now Disney Plus, but we're not paying for it, though. We get the first year free. So that's 5. We borrow YouTube Live from my parents, which is $30 a month, by the way. So my parents pay for that, and then we get their, like, we can share with like 2 or 3 other people. So we probably pay around an extra $40 a month for stuff. But I don't do the ad-free shit for Hulu, so I only pay like $6, $7 for Hulu.
So you don't have cable?
No, we got rid of cable. By the way, we pay $54 for a 200 megabyte download.
Okay, so let me ask this question. Another conversation, and we'll go back to Disney and Mandalorian here in a second. But with all these options, you still have to pay your cable provider a shit ton of money for a good internet speed. I internet game, for example.
Yeah, but how much do you pay?
Let's just so right now, I think my bills are probably like, I don't know, $120 a month or something like that.
Okay, well we pay $54.
So you guys are paying $54 for better upload speeds. So my question has always become,
download speed.
Download, my bad.
Yeah.
How practical is it to be able to really cut the cord, though? Because you still have to feed the piggy banks with all these other services that you're paying for monthly.
Oh, well, I mean, it's...
And is YouTube good for local sports? Because as a sports guy myself, I want to make sure that I can watch again, we're in the Minnesota market. I can watch the Twins, the Timberwolves, the Wild.
Twins, I don't know.
The Vikings.
The Wild and Vikings, you can. YouTube
okay,
Live.
So then you can probably watch the Twins.
YouTube Live, but you would pay $30 for YouTube Live.
Okay.
The only reason is my parents get it because they do that. They like watching live
I just
stuff.
feel as though these streaming services are going to add up and add up and add up to the point
Yeah.
where I'm paying what I would have paid for cable, so why don't I just get cable?
Exactly.
But then the problem is a lot of these streaming services aren't available through cable, so you're still stuck paying for those anyway. So maybe I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. I
think and somebody, it was a funny tweet somebody had. It was like people been sharing. They're like, and they add up all their subscriptions. They add like $90, and they're like, we're not paying for any extra shit. So you guys duke it out, like figure it out, because we're not going to pay more for it. Because you're right, cable, you paid so much money. So for us, we were paying internet regardless, right? So you're paying internet. Amanda, we got rid of it because we didn't even watch it anyways. Like we just watched Netflix and Hulu and Amazon. So that's 10, 9, and I don't know, 6. So we're under $30, right? And then 54, so we're at $80. But you had to pay for that anyways. Internet, you need internet.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I need the internet.
No,
and
what
so
happens?
If I'm paying 120, it's with cable and internet.
So for
by
me,
the
like
way,
internet's a wash. It's always a wash because it has to be needed. So you get rid of that cost. You know, a cable internet, yeah, you're paying 120, but like for us, like I consider we're only paying for services. We're probably maybe paying for $40 worth, but that's us though. And my parents they cut the cord on cable after like 15 years, and because YouTube TV does live, we watched the Vikings game streaming on YouTube.
So you've also
Same
got
with
like,
Wild,
you've also got
watch
like
the Wild.
PlayStation View and stuff like that, and there's different packages where it's effectively like
I don't
having
know
cable.
Yeah, I'm sure PlayStation. I don't know anything about PlayStation View, but maybe it does. Yeah, but I know that you can. I'm sure you can watch Twins as well. But we watch Vikings games every Sunday on that, or if we're not at somebody's house. But most other people's houses are watching it through YouTube Live TV, and it's as long as you have a fast internet connection, it's fucking awesome.
I think cutting the cord is becoming easier, and maybe it's
yeah.
one of those things where a year and a half ago I looked at it and said, yeah, not quite worth it. Maybe I need to continue to evaluate that.
I think it's because it's come that way.
Right.
Even within the last year and a half, it's come a long way. I mean, like every year, it just substantially gets better.
So let's talk about, I don't want to rehash what you and Chuck talked about in the first podcast, but let's talk about Disney Plus and The Mandalorian specifically and what this is going to do for Star Wars.
I think, Mandalorian, I watched it. Good, not impressed, but good. It did impress me.
How does that work? It's good, but you're not impressed.
Not impressed.
What would have impressed you?
It's pacing, visual effects, acting, story. Swear to God. Yeah. It did not blow my mind. I've watched TV series that have sucked me in so much that I am like, holy shit, I cannot wait for the next episode. Mandalorian, I watched, and the only reason I really want to keep watching is because I love Star Wars and I love the universe, or like I love the aspect of the universe, like expanding it. So I love the potential it has, but that's about it. The acting didn't get to me. If you watch the second one, you'll understand. Like it doesn't blow your mind. The visual effects are better than subpar. They're good, but it doesn't blow my mind. I think it plays out like it's a glorified. It looks like it's terrible to say. It looks like a glorified TV movie. If that makes sense. Like if you watch like the Hallmark Channel or sci-fi movies that are really shitty.
I knew you were going to go there. Do you really got to put them in the same category?
Not
as
in the same
Hallmark
category.
movie?
I'm just saying it's above that par, but the way it plays out in the pacing, like it feels like it's too clunky to me. And that's
I feel like it's being crammed in a 45-minute window.
I think so. But I also no, but I mean it has its own its own season. So, but I mean, look at like Westworld. Westworld doesn't feel like it's crammed into it. Game of Thrones doesn't feel like it's crammed. I mean, from the get-go,
but those episodes are easily 60 minutes to 120 minutes each.
Yeah, but I'm saying is though, I think Mandalorian, even though they dumped a bunch of money, it's supposed to be the most expensive. To be honest with you, it doesn't look like it. Either that, or whoever was on it, they charged them top dollar, and they're not getting their money's worth.
I feel like the visual choice was made in the Mandalorian. Again, a lot of my takes aren't necessarily original, but I saw someone on YouTube yesterday that said one of the things that they found refreshing about The Mandalorian was the restrained nature of not using CGI on all characters at all times.
That's true, but I also believe that
I admire that.
I think that was good, but I also think that, like I said, I think it came down to clunky editing and clunky acting or pacing. I mean,
I think this character is hard to get good acting from.
Yeah.
Because you don't see his face. You can't read his eyes.
Then whoever is directing, I know Jon Favreau's helming it, He created it. He wrote it, but he's not directing.
He's only writing the first few episodes.
Yeah,
and you're right. He's not directing.
but he's like produced. But he's like kind of the head of the thing. But I'm saying is like I just feel like it feels like there's nothing wrong with this, by the way. I mean, like it feels like they have a lot of, I don't know who the directors are. It just feels like the directors are either have their hands tied behind their back or they're just not talented enough to helm the episodes. Because to me, it's just like it feels too safe. It feels it just doesn't, the pace, everything's just, it just feels like I feel like what it is it's Disney it has their hands on it, obviously, and there's too many cooks in the stew, or whatever the fuck you say that.
So if you're saying it's too safe, it will be really interesting, not to, again, to get off topic, but I often will. What are they going to do with Deadpool?
I don't know if Deadpool's going to go forward. Maybe
no, they're saying they're going to do another Deadpool and they're going to greenlight it at rated R.
They might just leave it as it is. They might just leave it, you know, because it's proven twice that somebody at Disney's like, just leave them the fuck alone and let them make.
But you would argue that Disney has gone really safe with the last couple of Star Wars movies.
They did. They played with Force Awakens. The Last Jedi was a disaster, but yeah.
I know, but disaster I think is a little bit tough.
That's true.
That's tough.
I think it's not good. I'll give it that.
It was a good movie. I don't know that it lived up to the expectations.
No, I think it was not good.
Really?
Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast.
No doubt. I mean, that would be one to dig into. I would want to go back, watch the movie fresh, and come back and
so
have
many
that
videos
conversation.
on the internet, that are like they either love, hate it, or whatever. I just think it was not good. Like I get people who are like, well, it's with us, and I was like, no, it's just not good. It's not. It doesn't follow the trilogy. It doesn't follow the plot line that it's supposed to. You have a plot line you need to pay off, and there's no payoffs. And whatever you feel about characters, there's terrible payoffs, terrible character plots, terrible storylines, the whole gamut.
One of the things I'm getting afraid of with Star Wars, I mean, and this is just a general feeling for me.
Yeah.
I grew up watching the old Star Wars on repeat, right? We'd see them on network television every weekend. Mm-hmm. And then we got all jacked up because episode 1, 2, and 3 were coming.
And
we knew they were going to be there, right?
Yeah.
And episode 1 was, I thought, okay. Say what you will about Anakin. Yeah. Whatever, fine.
The pod racing, fucking amazing.
Sure.
Amazing.
And that made every video game after that.
Loved
it became the biggest part of the whole film. Look, I went back and watched episode 2 within the last 2 years. Jar Jar didn't kill the film for me. And actually, I think over time,
episode 1.
Well, was Jar Jar? I thought he was in episode 2.
No, he was only in it for like a second.
Okay, you're right. I'm confusing episodes. So Jar Jar didn't kill it for me the way I thought it did back when I initially saw it. Yeah. I think that it's actually aged better than I think the initial fervor dictated. It's still a joke that he had such a big role, but you're right. In the second film, my memories come back to me on that one. He was in it for a second, and the second film was much better for it. Yeah. Those films weren't terrible. I feel like people had such high expectations based on what they initially saw that they were good. So then you come into the the latest ones, right? Mm-hmm. Rogue One was incredible.
Rogue One was great.
It was incredible.
It was great.
But it was the first film to not do the crawl.
Yeah.
And they were finally establishing this is going to be its own story on its own.
Yep. And it doesn't continue.
It ended, and that was hard for a lot of Star Wars fans, I think, to accept.
Yeah, they probably were like, we would love to see her go another movie or two, and you're like, nope, this is it.
Those characters you kind of knew that by the end of it, they were there to perish and whatever. And then you had Solo come out, and that was another one that didn't follow the Walker the Skywalker timeline. Mm-hmm. And again, that had like something of a crawl, but it wasn't like a.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
Yeah,
it was
movie. Fun.
It's a glorified heist.
That's
movie.
what Chuck said. Yeah,
it's a glorified heist movie.
But that's what Han Solo was.
Yeah, he was.
He's a shyster.
Yeah.
So fine, but my concern now, and this is something that Star Trek has always struggled from, the timeline is going to get so fucking convoluted.
Yeah,
it's going to get so complicated. And I had to do this today at least once or twice. I was like, fuck, where does Mandalorian sit here again on the timeline? Like,
it's 5 years after.
But then you have the Clone Wars, which I don't know about you, but I've never seen. It's this animated series of the Clone Wars, and apparently anybody who is anybody,
which takes place way before
has
episode
watched
1,
all that shit, and it's a part of canon. But I'm sorry, it was way too childlike for me to get into.
Yeah,
and it kind of falls for me in the same vein of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like that was just too campy and too just not good, I guess, for lack of a better term. Can't articulate it. Just Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did nothing for me, and I didn't watch it. And then you got all these people who are like, yeah, but in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you saw this character, and this links into that film. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's not in the main timeline. It's probably not going to get my attention the way it did.
Yeah.
That's why The Mandalorian is so different. This is the first time that Star Wars has ever done anything on TV.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, man.
If it gets better, it gets better. I'm happy.
You got to be comfortable getting uncomfortable and let it breathe a little bit.
I don't mind letting it breathe. I'm just telling you from a standpoint. I'm just not impressed. I've watched, like I said, you how many times can you go into a Netflix series and you get sucked in from episode 1? You know
Stranger Things.
You have, like I said, Westworld, Game of Thrones. Dude,
those are HBO shows.
They're HBO, but regardless though, they're Netflix originals. The Peaky Blinders. Like, dude, I watched people. I was like, get the fuck out. Okay, I'm in.
Show.
Breaking Bad. Dude, that's what I'm saying. Is like,
AMC.
I'm just saying, AMC. But I'm saying is like there are plenty of TV shows out there that suck you in from episode 1, and Mandalorian should be.
Dead,
Walking Dead. Mandalorian should have been no different. It just feels. Like it just too. Like I said, I'll let it breathe. Maybe it gets way better. Maybe it does. I just feel like there's too many cooks in the kitchen that they have too many people breathing over their back. They're trying to do it very cookie cutter. Like this shot is this shot. This shot. And it's just clunky. Not good editing. The visual effects are okay, but like again though, I don't know. Like I just feel like it's not doing what. I don't know if it's not doing what I expect it to do. Or it's just maybe, and you're right, it's 45 minutes, but I feel like there should be more going on in each episode. I also feel like the episodes are bland. Like there should be more going on.
I just feel like we've become so accustomed to watching 3-hour star battles that with lightsabers and stuff that you take a character as a Mandalorian who literally they don't take off their helmets.
They don't, yeah.
And it's really hard to convey any kind of acting through a shield that way.
But even the opening though was not. It's like you could have made well how about this?
I 100% agree.
If the opening would have been more maybe they should have made it more fantastic.
I had a tough time with the open. I had a really tough time with the open.
Or sell the fact that he's a Mandalorian and he's cold as shit. Make him murder somebody and bring him back.
He kind of did.
Well, he brought him back
right away. He killed the guy with the door.
Well, he does. But again though, it was kind of like not emphasized. You know what I mean? Like it's like it just doesn't feel like you could.
It didn't have gravity.
Exactly, not gravity in the situation. Yeah. And it was cool he put him in carbonite though. But again, the carbonite was so weird.
Okay,
the one dude.
So maybe you're selling me on your point, which maybe I'm okay with, to be honest. But that character could have done something for the episode.
Yeah.
And they took this character who was kind of like an endearing comic relief guy, and then they just did away with him right away.
Honestly, the best, what I loved about. I say I love, but the Mandalorian, the scenes I did like though, again, there wasn't enough depth to the episode, I think. But the part that get depth was Werner Herzog, and then you saw the stormtroopers. The Empire had fallen, right, or had just fallen, right?
Yeah, he didn't want to use the currency.
Yeah, he didn't want to currency like that. Yeah, that's a world thing.
Yeah.
That was the only part of the first episode that was like, oh my god, I love this.
Right,
but that's it. That was it, and that was like the last 10 minutes or something.
You're going to continue to get taste of the world.
Yeah, and the second episode, once you finally watched Jawas get introduced, it was cool. Like I was like, oh, Jawas. But even that, and they build a little bit, but again, it just doesn't fully deliver. But then you'll see what they introduce. You'll like it.
Well, I remember, again, I'm not a big fan of spoilers, so I don't want to say too much, but fuck, at this point, we've already gone there.
Yeah.
You just talked about the Jawa, but so Baby Yoda gets introduced.
Mm-hmm.
And
which isn't obviously Baby Yoda.
Right, because Yoda's dead. But we realized that Yoda probably banged somebody. Yeah. And there's a little Yoda running around.
It was cool. Right? It's awesome seeing. So I do love that. So I do love that aspect of it.
That baby has to have a tie to Yoda, otherwise it wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's 50 years old.
So Yoda and Yodel or whoever the hell Yoda slept with.
Yeah.
Even if they sleep together, maybe it was just a total mind fuck. I mean, I feel like I go through those every day of my life.
Yeah. So, but that's what I'm saying is like when you watch the second episode, they do introduce the Baby Yoda, or at the end of the first episode, yeah. But they still don't like dive.
But that for me was.
They still don't give it depth though. So even the second episode, you're like, oh, this is a cool storyline. I like to see where this goes, but they still don't even put depth to it. And you're like, come on, like give us I don't want to say give us a little more because they
didn't give it depth because it's a TV show and they had to give you a cliffhanger to watch the next episode.
It's fucking Star Wars, bro. You could pack in like so much shit into one thing, it'd blow your mind.
I hope that this doesn't show bad things are in the future for this type of format.
I hope Mandalorian, like I said, I hope the next few episodes, I hope you're right. I hope it does breathe. I hope it like gets its feet. I hope it gets a little bit better. It's honestly, like I said, though, it's not blowing my mind. I don't think it's going to get the reviews, though, of great TV films. And I think it's because it's too top heavy, meaning that I think it has too many producers, has too much overlook over Disney. I think it's just, there's too many people at the top trying to make decisions at the bottom. Whereas most great TV always comes from the writers, and they swing for, or they do something wild, but they know it's going to work, and they get to breathe and create what they want. And people love or hate it. Producers, they fight back, but it comes out as a great product. I don't think The Mandalorian is getting that. I think it's just too top heavy. That's my opinion. I think it's too top heavy, and there's too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen, and that the result is you're going to get a bland series that's going to be okay.
So if The Mandalorian doesn't work, pure hypothetical statement here, speculation at its best.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think will? I mean, should Disney Plus continue to pursue
TV
series with their IPs and properties?
And they will.
Because I don't think Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. worked.
I think it'll come down to,
and if The Mandalorian doesn't work, what does it come down to?
I think they have to approach it like I honestly, like, they just got to get new top brass. That's what it comes down to, because it's not about whether the company has the money or the will to. It comes down to who is your producers and your creative directors. Because guess who just walked off fucking the next new Star Wars trilogy? The guys from Game of Thrones, and because they could not handle.
Is it Benoff?
Benoffs, whoever they were. They were like, they got hired on. And Game of Thrones is a great series. How you feel about the last few episodes, whatever, great series, amazing series, right?
Yeah.
They fucking did it. They did it.
Yeah.
And something was going on there at Disney. They said, "Fuck this. We're walking away from a trilogy, a Star Wars." They are walking away from a Star Wars trilogy, which means that someone or whoever is up there is rubbing them so horribly bad that they can't even work a Star Wars trilogy out. And how many directors have gotten fired? How many, granted that happens, but I mean, come on. Like, it's too top heavy. The producers get way too fucking their hands in the pot, and then they start twisting and turning. If they don't have a director that's a yes man, they get rid of them. And that even halfway through filming. The people that were fired off a Solo were the ones that made Into the Spider-Verse and won a fucking Academy Award.
Man.
They won an Academy Award.
Man.
The same year they were fired for Solo because they didn't have this right creative differences halfway through filming. And then they hired Ron Howard. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Like, that's what Disney. I think Disney's too micromanaging. I don't think that they'll just let something go and maybe let it fail.
I mean, but that happens at every level in films, right? Like, people walk off projects, people get frustrated.
By all means, it is. But
this many Star Wars films in
exactly this many issues, the blowback of The Last Jedi, the failure of Solo. Honestly, I think Mandalorian, people like it, but it's not great.
I still don't understand why Solo failed. I mean, I don't think
it's not a bad movie.
Underrated.
Because it was coming off the backlash of The Last Jedi. That's why. Because a lot of people hated The Last Jedi, and I agree.
A lot of people thought it was going to be Rogue One.
Yeah, exactly.
Or to that quality.
By the way, Rogue One was amazing.
Great movie.
So you had Force Awakens. Yeah, it was pretty safe, but it was great. I love Force Awakens.
But Force Awakens brought you back to everything that made you feel good about the originals.
Yeah, exactly. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
It was everything you wanted. Yeah, they played it. So who gives a shit? It was great. Or it was.
I really didn't think The Last Jedi was.
It was supposed to help set up a new generation. It was a repeat of A New Hope, but it set up a new generation. Whatever, it's fine. But then Rogue One came out, fucking awesome. They're batting 1,000. Last Jedi comes out, boom, hits a brick wall.
I'm gonna have to go back and revisit Last Jedi, I guess, because I saw it in the theater. I haven't seen it since.
Well, just the backlash though of it, like whether you liked it or not, the backlash of it hit a brick wall.
I just don't remember it deserving that much backlash.
I did. I mean, I saw it and I was like, oh, there's a lot of plot points. I was like, Jesus, they did that. But then you have Solo, and Solo was a decent movie. But the thing is since the backlash, Solo then failed, and then now they're scrambling with this, and apparently they've just had so many reshoots. The test screenings are going terrible. They're just like the new trailer. People are like, even the fans that are, I'm gonna go see it out of principle. I might see it alone out of principle. I don't even know if I'll drag Amanda to it. I honestly won't. Like, I drug my niece, nephew, and Amanda. I saw Force Awakens 3 times in theater. Paid 3D. I probably spent over $100 on tickets.
You have no reason to go see a movie alone now with all your pod friends here.
Well, I know. We can go see it and then
I'm just saying. I mean, you got enough people who will go see a film
yeah.
with you if you say, hey, you want to go see this movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I know. And like I said, I will go see it, but I'm not. Honestly, it sucks because it would be great to be like, yeah, Star Wars is coming out next month. I can't wait. Like the feeling I had when Force Awakens was coming. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. Yeah, like whatever, I'm going to go see it. And like, I was entertained. I was superbly entertained. Now I'm just like more dreading it. And I'm like, I'm going to go see this out of principle than anything.
So if The Mandalorian gives you 3 good episodes, is that going to turn you around? Or are you just so turned off to the media and the press that you've read about this that you're just like, you know what, that's it?
About the Rise of the Skywalker?
Right.
No, I'll go see Rise of Skywalker.
No, I know you will, but
Out of
you're kind of dreading it out of principle.
Out of principle.
You're dreading it.
But I've also seen the trailer.
But what happens if
and
the
some of
Mandalorian
trailer
turns
looks
out to
fucking ridiculous?
Okay, so
yeah.
Mandalorian's completely aside. You're
Yeah,
just
no,
basing it
Mandalorian's
100%.
completely. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Mandalorian's, that's just my own take on the TV series.
Because
If
it's still
could've
Disney.
Yeah, Mandalorian could have been amazing.
It's still the same
if
people.
If it blew my mind, I would have been like, Jesus Christ, like Mandalorians are great. Like maybe it would give me some hope. But honestly, watching Mandalorian, it just feels very like it felt like the Sci-Fi Channel gave way more money to the TV series. You know, because Sci-Fi always has like shit. They have like good series, but then they have shitty visual effects or shitty whatever. It's like it feels like it's just they dumped a lot of money into a Sci-Fi original. That's it. Like, and so that's how I feel about Mandalorian. Maybe it does get better. I don't know, but I'm just saying that I believe that there could be a lot more being done, and that's just my personal take on it. But I don't think they have an excuse for it not being as good as it should be, because there are so many other TV series out there. And it's like Elizabeth Banks making an excuse. I think that there's no excuse for The Mandalorian being the way that it is right now. I think it should be better on principle, because, yeah, you are Star Wars, therefore you should be swinging for the fences because you are Star Wars. Like, you can't play it safe.
You're saying no holds barred, don't cut the budget, don't cut the scripts.
Well, it wasn't so much the budget. This is the most expensive TV series, and by the way, it does not show it. It does not look that good.
I'm referring to the movie, but
no.
And I'm not saying they cut the budget.
No,
it's
I'm talking about
ridiculous
Mandalorian
expensive.
on this, The Massacre of the Mandalorian. It's the most expensive TV series, I believe, that's out right now.
I guess what I meant to say was don't cut corners.
Yeah, but I'm saying is everybody got paid, but I believe that everybody charged. This is just from the film industry standpoint. Everybody charged their full rates, and it was so expensive because it's a Star Wars piece and everybody knew it. Whereas I feel like they're not getting their money's worth for the amount of money they're spending on The Mandalorian. I really don't. I think the actors, whoever they are getting. Actually, I do know who they are, but they're getting their top dollar before the series even takes off. Whereas most time TV series are made great and then the actors get their payday. Whereas I think everyone's getting their payday because it's Star Wars and it's not resulting into, it's not translating into the series at all. It's not. Like, I'm going to keep watching it by all means, but.
So what Disney properties do you want to see spin off into other series or other TV shows? I mean, if you could pick a Disney
I don't even know much
property
for
out
Disney
there.
properties, though. I don't know, like,
Because really, the only way I look at it is this is their cash cow.
Star Wars is a cash cow, yeah.
And if it doesn't work for them,
well, Star Wars. If we're gonna kind of go down the beating the shit out of Disney, the Star Wars galaxy is tanking. Do you know that?
I've heard actually that it's not as cool as people thought it was going to be.
It's not so much is that it's not as cool. It's that it's fucking expensive and nobody wants to go. It's not worth the price. You're spending.
That's Disney,
dude. The ticket's $110 to get in for the day. $110 for one person.
The whole place is expensive. That's excessive.
Yeah. And then you're paying $35 for an alcoholic drink. I've seen the reviews of it. I'm like, I want to go, but I don't want to bring anybody. Like, I can't bring my niece and nephew.
Right.
Like, I can bring Amanda, but you're like, well, I guess we're splitting everything because it's like literally going to cost us $900 for a day to like dick around in Star Wars land, like Galaxy's Edge or whatever. Like, dude, they are not. I don't know who they think they're catering to. And so that's just beating Disney up.
Well,
more.
they're probably catering to the
But no one's
35 to 60-year-old who grew up with that stuff and needs to make a trip out to Disney.
But
But
they're not
maybe
going.
they're missing the mark because
they're missing the mark.
now you've got all these younger kids that are into this.
Want to go, but no, the kids
and
aren't
they can't
gonna
afford
fucking
it.
pay. Yeah, they're not going to afford it, and they've tanked. Like it's like not making any money. So I think that I eventually will probably have to revise it. But no, I think that I just think that the top brass at Disney need to either let off the reins, or they need to fire everybody and be like, and hire people that are willing to take the risks, because where you take the risks is where you make your money.
They need to let creators create.
Exactly. Because where did Aliens come from? It came from one dude at Fox, and you had Alien and Star Wars, by the way. They took a risk on Star Wars, Fox did, and then they took a risk 2 years later on Aliens. Like, and so, you know, and this was before anything's proven, by the way. So now that everything's proven, now it's about, it kind of goes back to story. We've almost seen everything. Now it comes back to the story.
Right. Strong writing.
Yeah. It always comes back to strong writing.
It does.
And so that's what I'm saying is, like, I think that it's just too, like, Mandalorian could have been awesome. That dude could have, like, you know what I mean? Like, he could have executed somebody. It could have been an emotional scene. They could have had an amazing cold open. They could have, open it with a star battle. Open it with a visual effects star battle. ships crashing into the fucking moon, whoever, whatever.
I think what they did is they established you have a Mandalorian who's struggling to be a Mandalorian.
Yeah, but even then though, it's still bland.
And,
It's still bland
and so the
to me.
question becomes, how much flavor do you get in that character piece?
yeah.
Yes. And then you look at something like the Joker, where you just have incredible flavor in a character piece.
Yeah,
It's just like-
exactly.
and on the heels of that, maybe it
Yeah.
becomes that much more unacceptable that
Yeah.
Star Wars of all
Yeah.
things can't even come close to that.
Dude, the first episode of The Mandalorian with the first episode of The Mandalorian with the flashbacks was terrible.
Oh, okay. By the way, I'm
terrible-
glad you brought that up.
Terrible editing, by the way.
I'm not the kind of guy that can't play video games because I'm worried about seizures.
Oh, dude.
I was watching that last night in bed, thinking I was gonna have a fucking seizure because of the way it was edited.
It was
so
terrible.
flash of light, picture real quick, but your eyes still couldn't adjust in the flash of light.
Yeah.
And the next picture took place, and you're getting flashed again.
Yeah.
It was horrendous.
Yeah, it was
I had
bad.
to damn near close my eyes and couldn't watch
Yeah,
the scene.
it
And I
was-
still don't even know what it was about.
Yeah, and it was like him being taken or whatever, but it was like not well acted, not well edited, and it was too random. It was just like him walking, and then it would cut back to you, like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't a triggering moment, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like they'd be like making his armor, and it triggers back to that, like.
It was because he was giving this armor to the extra armor to the kids.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, oh, think about when he was that kid.
He was like, I was a foundling too, and you're like,
Yeah, the foundling. There you
foundling,
go.
yeah. And I was like, oh, this is terrible editing, and that's what I mean by that. Like none of the talents are lining up. Like it's too safe. It's just not even too safe. I just think there's too many cooks in the kitchen. That's what it comes down to.
1
It's
to
too
2
top-heavy.
episodes in.
Yeah.
We'll see what kind of identity it builds for itself.
Yeah.
There's plenty of shows that have to grow, they have to build, they have to get
yeah.
big. But we're only getting, what, 6 episodes out of this?
Is that it?
Is it 6 or 8?
I think it's 8 tops.
Okay.
You're right. It's no more than 8.
So this is short, and
Yeah.
we're probably going to get a season 2 and a season 5 and shit. But
and by the way, I think a lot of people are going to watch, so they're going to be like, "Oh, it did great," but I think people are just watching again out of principle. Like I'm going to watch.
And then what's going to happen is the Mandalorian will get split off into a different character, which they do a series about, and you're going to do the Ewok, episodes because
I would see the
be
Ewoks.
fan catering. Oh, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't see the Ewoks?
Dude, I want to see how the Ewoks did after the battle.
Oh boy,
You know what I mean?
oh man,
That'd be dope as shit. But I'm saying is like I think though that if
the Tatooine, isn't that where they battled?
no Endor.
Endor.
They battled.
Tatooine was the second movie.
Tatooine's the first film.
Oh boy, I'm all over the place in
Yeah.
my Star Wars history
Yeah.
here.
I only know that just because I
Jeez.
just do the original. But I'm saying is those I think they should do. If they're gonna do spin-off little series, like keep it in the universe, which is totally cool as they're doing. But like, look, like make a follow some people that were on the Battle of Hoth. Like follow some people that were like Rogue One. They all died in the end. Rogue, and it's cool because like if you ever watch The New Hope, they're like we had people died for this information. That's a line in The New Hope. We had
Right. Right.
And then you're watching the people that died.
Yeah.
For that intel.
And it connects it when you watch it in order.
Great space battle too, by the way. And there's nothing stopping Disney from putting that space battle into an episode. They can do it. If you're
and
spending
maybe
that much money,
they will. Maybe it's just a build up.
yeah,
thing.
maybe it's a buildup. So that's just me. I just think
Yeah.
that the first 2 episodes are not. It's not translating how much money they spent. It's not translating. Like I've seen, and it happens in films too. Like they spent like $90 million, and you watch it, and you're like, "What the fuck did
What
you
did we
spend?
just see
What did
here?"
you spend your money on? Because this looks like a bad TV movie,
Right.
and they've spent like $50 million, and you're like, Jesus Christ! Like what the fuck happened? Because there's no money. It's it's like The Room. Tom Wiseau dropped $6 million.
I was hoping you would say The Room.
And
I was just
I'm going to
thinking
bring
about
it
it.
in.
I was just thinking about it
with
too.
You, I got to bring in The Room last second.
It's so funny.
Hail Mary.
Just thinking about
they
it.
spent rumored up to $6 million, and what?
What have they made? I'd have to like go back and research it now to see what he's made on that film.
Yeah, I'm sure he's made way more. He's
Oh no, that's
multi-millionaire,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like you don't. It's not.
Yeah. By the
It's
way,
not about how much you spend when it
Yeah.
comes down to how good a movie
yeah.
can be.
But say going back to that though, like I said, Mandalorian, and I think they're spending all that money, and it's not resulting in what they want. Honestly, and that's just my opinion. And if you're gonna spend that, like if you would have gave that to a different series, they would have. I mean, like it outspends Westworld, and Westworld has better visual effects, better storytelling, and better actors.
A part of me wonders if Mandalorian wasn't at all rushed, because I have a feeling, or I have a suspicion, that Disney Plus rushed to get ahead of the WB streaming service, which I know is coming.
Oh, is it coming? WB?
Yeah, I believe WB is going to. Warner Brothers is doing their own, and you're probably going to have a couple other streaming services that are going to be coming down the pipe. So the question
Those
becomes:
studios got to fucking team up.
did they rush it? was The Mandalorian a part of that? Now, granted, I've only seen the first episode, and I didn't think it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to breathe more, though.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Some of the editing was bad. Some of the characters that they just introduced and got rid of right away was a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
The open was horrendous because all of a sudden all this shit is taking place and I have no context to any of it right away.
Yeah, because it opens up in the cantina, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, but even in that moment, I was enjoying the nostalgia of how authentic it felt because I was back in the universe again and that felt good.
Yeah, I did like that. That's just being a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
I was
right.
like, oh, cool, we're back here. But then I'm like, this
but
is
I had no
delivering.
context for the guy that was sending him out on his
even
mission.
when the monster grabbed onto the ship, you know the pacing of that, how fucking
Oh,
slow it was?
yeah.
It's terribly slow.
Yeah, and
He's
it was like,
are you going to do something about that? He's like,
yeah.
are you going to do something about that? Okay, I'm going to go. Well, you should do something about it. It's like, Jesus. Like,
then,
are you going to...
And then when he shocked the monster off, I didn't even see him make contact with the monster. And
Yeah,
all of a
he's
sudden
like-
it was like the next shot was the monster was being shocked off the ship. And I was like, oh, that was kind of random.
Yeah, it was just... You could, like I said, it felt very... It just felt very bland.
They could have had him labor through that a little bit just to show how dangerous things were. And it was just kind of like, that problem's over.
Or edit it faster. Or something. But like I said, I just think that they're not getting their money.
It was a little bit heavy-handed where he was trying to learn how to ride that animal. He's like, you're a Mandalorian. And Mandalorians have conquered.
They used to ride the whatever the fuck.
It's like, okay, so this little creature in the
knows
in the back of a farm is supposed to now,
which is
like
I believe
inspire this Mandalorian to like grab his balls.
Which, by the way,
I
believe that's Nick Nolte.
Yeah, it was Nick Nolte. But
yeah.
this creature in the back of a farm pen is supposed to inspire this Mandalorian
here's
to
the
be a
kicker, though.
Mandalorian. Like, come
As
on.
much money as they spent, right? I liked that they did the physical animatronics. I did. But then part of me also, it wasn't translating enough for me. So then part of me was like, I kind of wish they CG'd that. Only because the emotion of the character wasn't fully getting across to me.
I'm going to tell you right now.
But again, though, I did love they did. So I could take it or leave it.
I know that you haven't watched it. The Dark Crystal on Netflix is really, really good. And if there's anything that I've learned to appreciate from that series is that they have been able to build a world not using CGI.
No, and I'm with you. And I'm 100%
And there are
with you on
pieces
that.
of CGI in it,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But like it is so naturally built from puppeteers.
Yeah.
And I think I really appreciate that Star Wars has done that.
Yeah. No, I did too. And
A
like
bit here.
they did that facial. I was like, that was awesome.
Right.
And I was like, okay, maybe they should have done more. Maybe just CG the eyes. You know, it's like use the face, but then because you could tell it was struggling. Like, and the way he interacted, and you could totally tell Nick Nolte like not phoned it. Again, paid money. He didn't phone it in, but he had no emotion into the voice. There wasn't as much of it. Like they're both too monotoned through the whole thing. Maybe that's just me, but both characters were too monotone.
It's kind of like they shared a little bit of time, and that was that.
Yeah, exactly.
You see the character again, you do where you don't.
And then once you see the second episode, you'll kind of see more of that.
Okay.
He's like, and you're like, okay, this is kind of cool, but you're kind of like, like it's not like other characters in other series who are like, oh, cool, even though they're a side character, we really love that character. Like it was like, oh, cool, and then they're gone. Whereas like this one, you're like, oh, all right, whatever, So, anyways, that's my take on it.
So that's where things sit.
That's where things sit.
Just
did an hour and a half, bro.
For right now. That's legit.
Hour 32 minutes.
Seems legit.
Yeah, man. So it was awesome having you on.
Thanks for having me over.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. We'll definitely be doing a lot more.
If the fans demand it, Ethan, I'll come back.
Oh, we will, dude. We will. In fact, what we're gonna do is I think we're gonna do you and Chuck, because you and Chuck, I think you and Chuck might agree on more stuff.
I heard Chuck.
I think me and you. I'm gonna be fighting you and Chuck, because you liked the Last Jedi. He liked it too. I'd be fighting both.
And we both like the Dark Crystal.
Yeah. And I'm like, I couldn't get past the first 5 minutes.
But Chuck hates him some Trump, and I love me some Trump.
Oh, that's true. Well, that's a different conversation.
That's a totally different conversation. And
And all right, yeah, that's a different
we'll have
conversation.
some fun with that, I think, because it's not like we love everything about anything.
No, yeah, exactly. But
But
what I'm saying is like, like I said, the podcast is just kind of taking a break of everything. The podcast is going to geared more towards film and filmmaking, just like the YouTube channel will be.
So for people that have stuck around this long,
granted, it will cover other things.
Sure.
So like, we'll do another podcast. We might just talk politics.
Right.
Like, in fact, I got Travis coming on, who is going to be running as a Republican here in Minnesota. Excuse me. He's going to be on tomorrow. We're probably going to talk an hour on his policies. That's it.
Sure.
Just see like what he just for like mix it up.
change it up. You got to have different episodes, and so you're still in the early stages. building your podcast and what you want it to be. It sounds to me,
I like to do entertainment. I don't want to say just film, but entertainment as a whole.
It sounds like you're going to make the Nagel Bear podcast a number of things, and it's not going to be, hey, I'm subscribing to a cooking channel here.
No, yeah, it'll cover a lot of facets, but it'll focus on entertainment, film, and then it will split off into warcasts.
Nice.
So there'll be a filmcast. So this will be a filmcast. This episode will be labeled as a filmcast category. Greaves was a warcast. And then there's ones like Chuck is actually just going to will be labeled just regular as a Nagel Bear podcast. Just because it's like we've covered a bunch of things. So if we're like me and you, we have a conversation that covers film, covers politics, covers whatever. I'll just be Nagel Bear podcast. And
it'll all be under the umbrella.
It'll be on the umbrella. Yeah, I don't want to try to focus it into one category because I will go off the rails or I will go off.
That's the fun of a podcast,
and it's my podcast. I'll do what the fuck I want.
Yeah, it's just your property.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it will definitely focus more on entertainment, film, but it also definitely on the veterans' take. So when it'll be really cool is Greaves is with a guy that I serve with. He is. He's going to college right now with a guy from Pakistan who was in Afghanistan patching people up in hospitals from 2008 to 2015. And he's super pro-American. Obviously, he's an American and his degree's pro-American, all this stuff. So Greaves is we're probably going to have him on.
Getting that guy's perspective on the world would be
so that's a warcast.
A cool element to bring in,
you know? And so that's why I'm even to have you on with your tanking stories and stuff like that. And we'll do a round table me, you, and Greaves, and there'll be a round table of Charlie and whoever I bring in and stuff like that, and that other guy as well. But to get more perspectives on that, so because I do want to do that, but on the YouTube channel, because that's where it'll be. You'll see the thumbnail. So I've created different thumbnails. And this is just diving in the technical aspect of this podcast.
Well, it's important for people to lay out to your
so
future fan base.
You'll see it right away. Your visual. You'll see a thumbnail that looks more military, and that'll be a warcast, and it'll say it too. And then you'll have one that's more
like the Nagel Bear podcast warcast.
It'll say NBP. 00 number, and they'll say underneath warcast.
Nice.
And then the guest, and then so this one will be NBP 005 filmcast, and it has a little film reel.
Nice.
And it'll have your face and name. And I've already made them. I'll show you after this. And then there's one that's just Nagel Bear. It says Nagel Bear. It just says Nagel Bear podcast 00 whatever guest. That's it. So
if you ever need an emergency pod or if something hits in pop culture, shit.
And that's good. As I'm banking these right now, and like I said, we can talk about this right now. We'll talk offline. As I'm banking these first few right now, and then I'll release them over the next. I'm gonna start maybe next week, but maybe I could probably release. Nah, probably not because maybe because there's the podcast and there's the YouTube. So I could release the podcast and then throw them on YouTube maybe in the next week.
I've noticed that creators, for example, the Joe Budden podcast is one that I've listened to in the past, and not as much as I used to because they get a little bit heavy-handed on that podcast with just all sorts of bullshit. But they'll do their Spotify thing, and then usually a day or two later it'll show up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Now I don't necessarily know why. But I'm guessing it has to do with copyright, where it has to go to Spotify first, and then they have the licensing ability to kick it out to YouTube.
Yeah.
Kind of like video gamers have embargoes on when they can actually produce a review for a video game.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something we didn't even talk about tonight was the new Star Wars video game that just came out.
Oh, I've never played.
And that's... Well, it just came out, and apparently it's really damn good.
Yeah, what's it
I'm
called?
wondering...
it's got the
I don't even know.
kid from Shameless in it.
But I'm just wondering if this... again... Back on an old topic, but I'm just wondering if we're not going to burn out from Star Wars shit here pretty soon. And I feel like Disney's just setting themselves up for that. But anyway, so there's, these are these embargoes, and they can only release a review and say certain things and show certain things at certain periods of time. So maybe that's, a reason why you put it on YouTube a couple hours later, a couple days later or something.
And that's the thing too, is that's why I'm trying to see how I want to time it out, because there's going to be podcasts if I'm not going to release say this one for almost 4 weeks or 3 weeks, because if I do 2 a week, this would be the week 3, right? But if suddenly me and you have a podcast about some other film and we released that before, which is fine, I just have to relabel. So I'm trying to see how I want to jockey that, which is fine. If I have an arsenal of it, then I'm fine with it.
You're going to want to build a bank too, where you can release
that's
certain
why I'm building a
episodes
bank,
when you're gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
If you're on vacation, if you're going to a school for the military, whatever. So.
Yep, exactly. And I had to release the first one just because I had to get on Spotify podcast. They have to you have to have at least one episode on Spotify, so I had to get approval. So I'm waiting on approval for iTunes and Spotify right now.
So as we end this
I'm on
episode,
SoundCloud, so.
where do people find you then moving forward?
Find me on YouTube at Ethan Nagel, which is literally just Ethan Nagel on YouTube.
What's your Twitter handle?
I don't have a Twitter handle.
Oh, you do have a Twitter
Actually,
handle.
no, I do.
Yeah, I found it today.
It's the Nagelbear
I
Adventure.
found it today.
You know who I follow? Porn stars.
Yeah,
That's
well.
it. There's literally like
Why would you follow anybody else?
it's like one or two other things, and then like a few porn.
You know,
stars.
the problem with filling your feed with that kind of business is you have this
I have to make a new one for my new. I'll have to make a new Twitter
What
handle.
is it? NSFW, not safe for work.
Yeah, yeah.
You have all these NSFW like images
Yeah.
showing up. So you're sitting at your desk scrolling through things I wouldn't know from experience or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're going, oh shit.
Oh, yeah.
There's some titties, and you're looking around, and all of a sudden you realize there's a camera above you, and you're
Yep.
sitting in your office. And
Dude, I
you gotta
have
be
to.
careful.
I have to create new ones. Like I created a. Well, you can go to. Ethan.
You can unfollow the porn stars.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, I'll just get. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. So So I have on Instagram. The Instagram handle will be is Ethan Nagel Films for Instagram. Create a new one for that. So go follow that, and then because that's where I'll be doing my business and all this podcasts. Even though I do have a Nagelbear Adventure, but that's a personal account. And then EthanNagelFilms.com. Go check that out if you want to hire me to do some cool shit. And then Ethan Nagel on YouTube. And then Spotify will be Ethan Nagel or the Nagelbear Podcast. You can or search under Ethan Nagel, and the same will be for iTunes Podcast once those get approval. SoundCloud is straight up Nagelbear Podcast because that's what you found it.
That's
right?
where I found you on today.
Nagelbear Podcast.
Yeah.
So Nagelbear Podcast is the main title. So yeah.
Well, it sounds to me like we're going to be having a podcast soon. Probably revolving around the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Oh my God!
So
Yes.
stay tuned for
Actually,
that. Hopefully,
that, and then also we're gonna do. I want to do like basically like people watching that. We're gonna watch it and we're gonna video it and just have our reaction. I'll cut it down to a 15-minute.
great.
Fucking We'll get like tanked and we'll set it up in there. So that'll be a whole other thing we'll talk about.
I appreciate you having me on, buddy.
Dude, fuck yeah, love that you came on, bro.
I love you, man.
Love it. All right, signing off.